All right. So I excited to finally be able to sit down and share my story. It's been really crazy because we went from 3 to 5 children. So I'm gonna do my best. Like with the dates, they might be a little bit off. But I'm just gonna share my story to the best ability of what happened to me. So I um went in to, it was June 23rd. I went in to have my twins, and I was having contractions when I got to the doctor's office, and it was actually at my checkup. And so they hooked me up to the monitor, and I was having contractions. And so the doctor was like, basically, like, hey, you're scheduled to go in on Monday for a C section. Like, do you want to just do it today? I was like, well, yeah, because I'm already having contractions. Like, why not? So he met me up at the hospital. Tay met me up at the hospital, and they did my C-section because the girls were breech. So, and it turned out actually that it was ended up being safer. I really wanted to have a vaginal birth, but it actually, looking back, I do believe, obviously, like you're going to hear a lot, but I believe that God does have a plan for everything. And as much as I wanted a vaginal birth, I believe that it was safer for twin B, which was Lily, because when she was hooked up to the monitor, she wasn't doing, before when I was at the doctor's office, she wasn't doing as well on, like, through contractions. She wasn't doing as well. So I don't know how she would have, like, she could have potentially died if I would have had a vaginal birth because she wasn't handling contractions. And you know what? Who knows what would have happened? But I do believe that the way that my twins were, it was just, it was meant to be, and that's fine, because that's not what I wanted. But you know what? Sometimes we don't get what we want, we get what we need, right? So I had my C-section on June 23rd. C-section, everything was fine. The babies were both healthy. They didn't have to go to the NICU. Praise the Lord. They were 36 weeks plus 4. Okay, so that was June 23rd. So we brought them home, and my mom was here, and she helped out with the kids while we were in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 3 days. Everything was fine. We came home. Tay and I were waking up with the babies at night. Everything was fine, you guys. Like, so that was June 23rd. Then about a week later, it was 7 or 8 days later, so I think it was July 1st or July 2nd. We were supposed to take the girl. This was crazy. This was literally crazy. Okay. So I had the girls' checkup due, for them to go to their pediatrician. Everything is like just so coincidental that it's like stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like God already had all this planned. Okay. So like, this is what's crazy. Like, this is literally so crazy. So I had the girls' doctor's appointments planned. I think it was for that Friday. I believe it was Friday. It was Friday at like 2:15 or something for the baby's first pediatrician appointment. Okay. So we had already been ready to leave the house mentally. I mean, getting kids ready to leave the house, you gotta like, okay, fine. I mean, whatever. So we were already mentally prepared to leave the house. We were getting the diaper bags ready. Everything was literally ready to leave. We were like, okay, we're gonna leave at 1:45, or we were gonna leave at, no, it must have been, the doctor's appointments are at like 1 or something. And we were just preparing to leave. We were getting ready to leave, and it was around, I think it was like noon or 12:30. I went to the bathroom, because we were just getting ready to leave. We were getting the girls' car seats out. Like, that was the last thing we were gonna do, was get the girls in the car seats, okay? And I was going to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden, I hadn't really bled much before, like, this whole time. I bled a little bit, but nothing like super, super crazy. And in the hospital, when I was in the hospital after the C-section, I even said something to the doctors. Like, I said, aren't you guys supposed to be pressing on my stomach? Because I remember having a C-section with Riley, and I swear they were pushing on my stomach so much, like it freaking hurt with my first C-section, and they didn't do that in the hospital the second time. So I even asked while I was at the hospital. Sometimes my story, I'm going to go back to things that I remember. So, like, I even asked, like, how come, like, that's weird, because I remember when I had a C-section with Riley, I stood up and just blood went everywhere. This might get graphic, but literally, and I just remember being like, oh my gosh, well, I never really had, like, that, with Lily in London, which I thought was kind of weird, and I was asking them, why aren't they, pushing my stomach more, and they're like, oh, well, we pushed on it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but I'm thinking they didn't do it, like, when I had my first C-section, so I just thought it was weird. I brought it up in the hospital. I had horrible nursing care a ton of the time. Sometimes I had amazing, incredible nurses, but like, I was like, and this is all recorded on my Instagram story, so if you want to go into detail on like some of the, like, it was just crazy. Some of the nursing staff, like, I just couldn't believe some people that were nurses. So if you want to hear more about that part, that was crazy, not fun, cool. Okay, sorry. Okay, well, see, that's why I don't like to go into that, because, like, it was really frustrating. It's hard when it's hard. It was mentally, like, it was a lot. Okay, so yeah, we're trying not to cry. Okay, so 8 days later, I would go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden, blood just starts gushing out. And I thought that was kind of weird. It was weird because, and I also was still wearing a pad, and I ended up filling up a pad, like a full pad, within just like 5 to 10 minutes. And I was like, that's weird. And then I put another, so I switched it out, and I filled that up within 5 to 10 minutes. And I go, okay, something's weird, something's off, something's wrong. Like, in my head, like, I feel like like that intuition, like, I just knew something was wrong. So I Googled it, like we all do. What's Google say? And Google was like, if you fill 2 pads in less than an hour, like, something's wrong. So I knew something was wrong because it just kept coming. It was like literally gushing. And so I told Tay, actually, before I called my doctor, they didn't answer. And so, like, I left a voice message or something, and then, like you can never get a hold of my OB, okay? Like, you just could barely ever get a hold of him. You always, like, had to leave a message. So I left a message and be like, something's wrong. So you have to wait for them to call you back. Sometimes during, like, my pregnancy, it would take them, like, a full day of me calling, like, and it just forever for them to even call me back. So it really sucked that I couldn't get a hold of them right away because I knew something was wrong. And so they didn't answer. I was like, we're not going to sit here and wait another 15 minutes because there's blood just everywhere. So, okay, it's fine. I said, Tay, we got to go. And so instead of going to the girl's pediatrician, we had to go to the emergency room for me. So I just thought that was so weird, the timing of everything. It was just too coincidental to be like, we were already packed and ready to go, but instead of going to the girls' doctor's appointments, we ended up going for me, okay? So because we were ready, we get to the hospital. We were on our way to the hospital, the emergency room already. We're about 5 minutes away. I finally get a doctor call. And the doctor was like, the doctor said, your OB said to go and lay down. Go home and lay down and call us back in an hour if it hasn't stopped. I literally was like, I'm already on the way to the emergency room. Like, I've already been bleeding out, and you want me to go home for a whole hour and lay down? Like, I could have died. Like, whatever. There's a lot that's messed up in this story. Okay, so praise God, I listened to my intuition, and I went to the emergency room. So I get to the emergency room, check in. It's freaking packed, you guys. And I tell them, like, you check in, and I literally tell them, like, they take your vitals after a while, and I literally tell them, I said, listen, I am bleeding out. And I was telling them, like, I'm bleeding out, and they're like, oh, you're fine. Like, they're like, well, your blood pressure's fine. Well, my blood pressure is always excellent. I don't know what it is, but, like, I always have really, really, really good blood pressure, and they're like, your blood pressure's fine. Your vitals are fine. Everything is fine. I'm like, no, like, I'm literally bleeding out. I'm trying to tell them. So they're like, go wait in this waiting room. So we get in the waiting room, probably, like, I'm waiting in the waiting room for like 20 minutes. Then all of a sudden I look down and I have bled. I bled through I had sweatpants on, like thick sweatpants. I bled through my sweatpants. I bled through the chair in the waiting room, and blood was running down my leg. And so I go in there and I'm telling them, I walk back and I said, listen, you guys, I'm literally bleeding. I just bled everywhere. I'm bleeding down my leg. Like, and they literally see it, and they call somebody because they have to start cleaning the hospital thing. And they're like, do you want these pants? I'm like, no, I want to see a doctor. I don't want to die, like, cause I'm literally bleeding out in the emergency room, and it's like, nobody's taking me seriously. And that's like the most frustrating thing. It was like, nobody wanted to take me seriously. So they're like, oh, we're doing the best we can. The doctor's going to see you. So, like, I don't know, 30 minutes later, they should check the cameras because I was bleeding out this whole time. Finally get to the emergency room. The nurse, I don't know what they all did in there, but I do have like a file of everything that happened to me. So it's crazy. Like, when I have I have a home health nurse. When they come and they look at my file, they look at me like this. Like, they just can't even believe that I'm alive, because you're going to wait to hear the rest of it. So I'm in the emergency room. In the room, finally, they get me into a room. And finally, like, maybe an hour later, I'm still bleeding. Like, my nurse is like, she's putting, like, and then I get to the emergency room. when I get to the room, I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. You know, we get to the bathroom and I filled the toilet. I'm sorry, this is really graphic, but like I literally filled the toilet with so much blood and blood clots. I've never seen anything like it before. Like literally clots. Like I just was like, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, what the frick, man? I've been bleeding out now for a couple hours. Literally just bleeding. It's just coming out in clumps. And then she finally gets me back into the thing, and they're like, and they're putting on like, you know, the hospital diapers. Well, from this time until then, I went through like 6 to 9 hospital diapers. Like I'm telling you, just blood was just going out. I remember one time they put a pan underneath of me to go to the bathroom, because at that point they didn't, like at some point, this is after, they didn't want even me to get up, and I had to pee in a bedpan. And I know this is really graphic and gross, and my husband had to watch me pass literally blood clots after blood clots. Like these things were huge. They're just coming out, gushing out. My husband, like I remember seeing his face, and he's probably shocked for life. Like just blood clots. I probably passed like 100 blood clots. I'm not joking. It was just blood clot for blood clot. Like it was disgusting. And there's blood like there's literally blood everywhere. So after I've been in the emergency room, you know, I was in there for like an hour before finally like a doctor came and saw me. And you know what he said? The doctor was like, "Oh, you're fine. This is normal. You should just go home." This is what the emergency doctor said. He was like, this, whatever. I was like, I'm not going home. I've been bleeding for a couple hours now. I said, it's not stopping. Something's wrong. And thank God, you guys, for my sister who works in healthcare, and she's on the phone with me freaking out. She's like, you need to ask for a scan or something. She said, ask for a scan. And so I asked for a scan. If I wouldn't have asked for a scan and advocated for myself, you guys, I would have literally died. So like advocating for yourself is so important if you know something's wrong. Because this guy tried to send me home. My OB tried to send me home. So he's like, well, it's going to take us a while because we're really busy. That's what he told me. So finally, like an hour later, so now I've been in the hospital like 3 hours. Like all this stuff is documented. This is what's crazy. Like our healthcare system is so messed up. He finally gets me a scan. The scan results take an hour or so, and I remember the scan coming back, and then finally they call my OB, and finally the OB comes up, and they're like, oh, yeah, there is stuff in your uterus. I told you something was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. It's fine, and I forgive them, and I'm working through a lot of trauma. You know, this is just like a little part of my story, you guys. It gets even crazier. So at that point, it must be 3 or 4 o'clock. I'm not sure. And I have been bleeding out this entire time, and they finally get the scan. They see like something in my uterus, so like it's not contracting. And so then my OB was like, he said, basically he's like, okay, we're gonna, I can't remember exactly what he said, but I do remember him saying, I'm gonna have to put, this is just sick. Like, if I tell you guys the whole story, it's just absolutely sick, and it's actually kind of hard to tell. But I remember him saying, like, I gotta give you these pills, like, I think it was like Cytotec or something to help me, like, my uterus contract, and he's like, I gotta put these pills up your butt, and I was like, I didn't want anything up my butt. I literally said, I'm like, I don't want anything up my butt, and he's like, and then he was like, oh, it'll be fine, blah, blah, he's like, and then he said this sick comment, and he was like, oh, I've been wanting to do this to you. And so it was just sick, and my husband was in the room too, but he's just so like, he says it laughingly, like, and so it's like a joke. Oh, I've been wanting to do it. I don't know, it's just absolutely sick. If you heard this whole story, you'd be absolutely sick to your stomach. I'm not going to mention any names. Okay, sorry, that's like hard to tell because it's just really uncomfortable, and like I was already bleeding out for like 4 to 5 hours. It's fine. Okay, so he does that. I get like 4 of those pills up my butt, which sucked, and nothing happened. So, or like it just coming, blood is just coming. This is when I used the bedpan. Been through so many diapers. Well, I'm telling my sister, like, I like my sister's on the phone with me a lot of the time, and she's like, Carrie, if you don't pass these blood clots on your own, like if your uterus doesn't pass these blood clots on your own, you're going to have to get a DNC, or you're going to have to get a DNC. Okay. So my sister's telling me, she's like, you already feel like crap now. She's like, just do the DNC, ask for the DNC now. And then you don't have to suffer this whole time. And I was like, okay. So I asked my doctor, I said, hey, if I don't pass these, you're going to have to do a DNC, right? And he was like, yes. So I was like, okay, can we please just do the DNC now? This is 5 o'clock. This is literally 5. It's between 4 and 5 o'clock. I remember this. Between 4 and 5 o'clock, I asked my OB, and he says, yes. And he confirmed he's like, yeah, your sister's right. I said, okay, can I do the DNC now? Just give me the DNC now. I would rather just do the DNC now. You know what? I'm sick of being in pain. And you know what he says? He was like, no, I think that you're going to be able to pass it on your own. And I'm like, okay. So I tried to advocate for myself there, but it's hard when your doctor's saying something and you're like, I don't know, like I asked for it then. I was like, just do it. Like, and he was like, no. So I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Force him to do, like, you can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you only have so much control in the hospital. Like, you can, I don't know, it's whatever. So he is no longer my OB. So 5 o'clock, I'm still bleeding. I'm literally bleeding out, you guys. Like, so they didn't check me into the hospital until like 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock. Like, I literally bled from 1 p.m., 12:31 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. So like this whole time, this is the period of time that I literally was bleeding out the whole entire time, like passing blood. So many blood clots went through, 6 to 9 diapers. I know at least 6, 9 probably by the time so I finally get checked in. I don't know if it's 7 or 8 o'clock. I finally get checked into the hospital, get up to my hospital room, and I remember the nurse, and I'm weak at this point. I've lost so much blood, and they still weren't taking me seriously. This is what's so crazy to me is like, I just felt like nobody was taking me seriously this whole time. Like, they didn't, like, I remember leaving the emergency room before they were transferring me, and I remember that nurse, I wish I had her notes, because I remember her saying, like, I remember her face going from, like, oh, everything's gonna be fine, to her looking at me being like, something's freaking wrong here. Like, I remember her change of attitude when she was like, this is getting serious, but nobody was taking me serious or, like, her serious. Does that make sense? So I wish I could see her notes, because, I could tell she got worried at the end. Do you know what I'm saying? When somebody's demeanor just completely changed. She was an awesome ER nurse. So I finally get up to the emergency room, or like up to my room. They check me in, and this new nurse comes in because I'm on the floor, and they were like, I remember her being like, can you get up to go to the bathroom? And I was so weak, but I said, you know what? I'll try, because I didn't want to pee in a bedpan again. I was like, you know what? I'll try, but I might pass out. So they helped me, this nurse and my husband helped me walk to the bathroom in the hospital room. And I remember sitting on the toilet, and then I don't remember. Like, and so what happened was I passed out on the toilet. I passed out. I remember waking up because they put something under my nose, and like, I don't know. I just remember waking up, and I was so tired. I was just so tired. And I remember waking up, and all of a sudden I looked over, and there's just 20 people in my room. Like, I didn't even know what was going on, and they were saying my name, and so I came to, and they said I fell asleep on the toilet, or I passed out on the toilet for like a minute and a half or something, and I was snoring, and I was unresponsive, and finally, all of a sudden, they all get me, all these, like, there's just so many people in the room, and I was like, okay, something's wrong, you know, like, I just passed out. All these people, like, they call it a Hellcat or something, when I looked up the notes, I passed out, and, they get me back into the bed. Everyone's checking on me. Everyone's like, are you okay? Are you okay? And they try to put a catheter in me at this point because they didn't want me to get up again. And I didn't want a catheter without drugs because it freaking hurts. And I am such a baby when it comes to pain. And so I was like trying to say everything was okay at this point because I was like, don't put that catheter in me. I was literally trying to force them off of me because they were trying to put this catheter into me. And I was like, no, give me drugs and then put the catheter in me because I don't like to feel pain. It was just trauma. Like, the whole thing was just sucked. And so they were like, whatever. And so finally, all these people are withdrawing my blood. They're doing all these things. Finally, my OB comes up and he's like, I finally, you know, I was like, okay, so are we going for my DNC now? And he was like, yes, we're going to take you for a DNC. I was like, okay. So thank God, because I was just so weak and so much pain. Like, I was just ready to feel relief, because that's what my sister told me. She's like, once they do that, you're going to feel so much better. Okay. So, it's about 8:30 p.m. You know, I've been bleeding out this whole time when my doctor came up there. So I get up, they take me to like the surgery floor, and I remember looking over and I'm talking to the surgeons and I'm joking with them because I'm trying to make light of this whole situation. Like, I always feel like if you're supposed to be positive, like, things will go better. So I'm like just talking to the people, having conversations, like, you know, like, I don't know, asking them questions, like, blah, blah, blah. And like, I don't really remember the conversations. I just remember talking to these people, like, who were gonna do my surgery or whatever. And it's 8:39, and I remember also they coming back up and they asked my OB. They were like, "Are you gonna take another one of her blood vials?" And he was like, "No." And they were like, "Well, you're supposed to." And he was like, "No, we're just going to do the DNC now." And so I don't actually know how much blood at that point I had lost, because I remember the nurses being mad because they wanted to get me another vial of blood taken to see how much blood I've actually lost, because I went into the hospital at like a 15 hemoglobin or something, and then I was like a 12, and then I went down to an 8. So when I went into surgery, we don't know. I think they drew my blood at 5.6. I was an 8, so we don't know how much I lost from like 4 hours later. So we don't know how much blood I went in with to the actual emergency room, because they skipped that part. So I remember getting into I remember going into surgery, and then I just remember saying I don't want to feel anything, and then that was it. They put this thing over me, and then I don't remember anything, because I went to sleep. So I'll tell you what happened. So I went to sleep. They did the DNC. Well, I woke up the next morning, because that's what I thought. So I woke up after surgery. I finally came to after surgery. I still had no idea what had happened, you guys. I was in the ICU. Well, they told me I was in the ICU. I didn't understand, but I was in so much pain. I just remember waking up being in so much pain. And I remember laying there, and they were like, I was like, I'm in pain. And I could barely talk. I was like, I'm in pain. Like, I'm in pain. Like, and they were like, so they gave me another shot of something. They're like, I'm like, no, I'm in pain. I'm in pain. They were like, no, you shouldn't be in pain. This is what my OB is telling me, and this nurse, you shouldn't be in, no, my OB was literally like, you should not be in pain, because we're giving you like the highest form of drug that we give people who are on like heroin or something. It was like this highest form of drug. And I was like, I'm in pain. And I'm telling them, like, I'm in pain. And they give me another shot of this stuff that was like, and I literally tell them, I said, no, please, it's not working. It's not working. It's like they weren't listening to me. I was like, no, it's not working. They're like, well, no, we just gave you like 3 shots of this really powerful drug. And I was like, I kept telling them it wasn't working. I'm still in the ICU. And they were like, they just kept shooting me up with the stuff. And I kept telling them it wasn't working. And then they transfer me. I don't remember what happened, because I think I fell asleep, because I think at that point they also probably put me on Ativan and lorazepam, which is like the sleeping thing. And I went back to sleep, and I remember waking up I remember getting transferred to an ICU room. So I was in the ICU. Still at that point had no idea what had happened to me. I thought I had just had a DNC. And I was just waking up from surgery, but I just knew I was in so much pain. And I'd finally tell this ICU nurse, and I said, listen, please help me. I'm in so much pain. And she's like, well, you're on this thing. I said, listen, it's not working. It's not working. Please give me what they had given me with hydrocodone or codone or whatever they give me after the C-section. That's what I was on for pain medication to help me with the C-section, and that stuff worked for me, but whatever they gave me in the hospital did not work for me. I don't know, it was a powerful drug, they said. Didn't work for me, but it works for heroin users. I don't know. And the lady finally listened to me, and she gave me some of the stuff that I had already knew that would work for me after the C-section, and she gave that to me, and I finally got some pain relief. I was like, thank you for listening to me. So I wasn't excited at all. I was just very happy to not be in pain. That was the whole thing. It's like, please don't put me in pain. They also, I know they were like, I was so drugged, you guys. I just remember being so drugged, like just coming to and then getting more drugs and then going back out. So I swear I was on that Ativan, lorazepam every 2 hours, even though they said it was every 4 days. No, I'm pretty sure I was on like every 2. Lorazepam makes you sleepy. So I slept through, I don't know, a couple days. I don't know the timing of all this. I know I slept for at least 24 to 48 hours. So I finally come to, and they got me out of ICU, and I got me into a regular hospital bed and a hospital room. And I'm telling you, my story is long, because this is only my first time in the hospital now. There's a couple more times after this. Okay. So I remember coming to, and I remember my, like being awake. Like I remember being awake in a regular hospital room, and I remember my OB coming in, and I remember him pulling out his cell phone and reading this text message. And his text message was like from another doctor who must have helped him in when I was doing the surgery or whatever. And she literally was like, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing. You're an amazing doctor. People don't realize how amazing that you are." And he's reading this to me and my husband. He's like, "People don't realize how amazing you are. Like, you literally saved her life. Like, And like people should, like, we don't get enough credit, like you don't get enough credit for how amazing you are. And like at that time I was just like, oh my gosh, wow, you must be amazing. Like it was just so weird. It's almost like it was just so weird because I'm like, why are you reading this? Like I don't, like in my right mind I was also drugged, so like why, it didn't make sense. Why, like at the time looking back, it doesn't make sense. Why would you read me a text message that tells me how great you are? It doesn't make any sense now or then. But at that point it was like, oh my gosh, it made me feel like, oh my God, thank you so much for saving my life. Like I didn't even know that my life needed saving, you guys. I still didn't even know what had happened to me. So I finally go, what happened? Because I had no idea what happened to me, you know? And so he was like, well, we got you back to do your DNC, and we did the DNC, and then you were bleeding out, and so you had to have a hysterectomy. And so I took out your uterus, and I took out your left fallopian tube or something. Your right or left fallopian tube. So they took my uterus and my left fallopian tube. So I still have 2 ovaries and a fallopian tube, praise God. And so, and he's like, you lost 75% of your blood. I went from a 12 or 15 hemoglobin to a 2 hemoglobin. So if you're in healthcare, you know, like that's like I basically died on the table. Like, and then so I went to a 2 hemoglobin and lost 75% of my blood, and they had to do a hysterectomy, and so that happened. So then I had to recover from all that surgery again. Okay, so I don't know how many days I was in the hospital. I could look it up exactly. I know I was in there over the weekend, over Independence Day, because I remember, like, I didn't even know it was Independence Day. I think I was just drugged and out and having surgery. I don't remember. So all my friends think I died at this point. Like, they said they think that I died on the table. I'm not sure. I think that I don't know what happened, but like there's more. I get to meet Jesus later on in the story. Okay, so I come home. I finally get released from the hospital. I come home, and on Thursday or Friday, I get to go see my primary care provider. Okay, so I go and see her, and I'm still having like these spasms in my back and stuff. And so she was like, hey, let's get you a scan to make sure that you don't have any blood clots, you know, like, because I'd already been through so much. So I actually do an outpatient scan of my lungs, and everything comes back clear. Praise God. Everything is great. 3 days later, so everything's fine. I'm recovering from the hysterectomy, which sucked because I had recovered from the C-section 7 days later. I was fine, up again walking. And then I had to recover again for another, like, get out of the hospital recovering now from a hysterectomy. They opened up the exact same scar and they closed it up again. So now my stomach's been open twice. And I come home for 7 days, have that scan, or 5 days later have that scan. I'm home now for 7 days, recovered fully. My sister's here helping, you know, thank God for my family for helping, and Kiana, but she doesn't come till later in the story. So Monday, it was a Tuesday or something, I can't remember, it was like 7 or 8 days after I'm leaving the hospital from the rest of me. 7 days later, I'm already recovered from the hysterectomy. My sister's here, and I remember having like night sweats. I'm sweating, and then I'm cold, I'm throwing up all night long. It was a really horrible night. It was such a horrible night. I thought that I had food poisoning. I'm like, something's wrong. I have I thought it was just food poisoning. And I'm literally throwing up and pooping, but I can't poop because of my muscles. I have no muscles because I've now been open twice in my stomach with a C-section arrest-me. And I remember throwing up and not being able to throw up anymore because I had to like hold something in my stomach, and like it was so painful, and it was just a horrible night, and sweating and then shivering and then sweating and shivering, and I thought it was just that. Well, but it was the Sunday. I remember it was the Sunday because there was nothing that we could do about it. I'm like, I'm not going back to the emergency room. So I remember on Monday, I think I called my primary, Monday, I knew something was wrong Monday because I was like, something's wrong again Monday now, because Sunday night passed and I was like, I thought it was just food poisoning, but Monday we're like, no, let's go back to the emergency room. So then we also had horrible care. I had horrible care at that one hospital. So then I was like, I'm not going back there because I went to the emergency room last time there and it sucks, you know, like they didn't believe me. Why would I go back if they tried to kill me, you know? So I went to the other hospital that I delivered at, to the emergency room, and so I tell them what had just happened. Didn't think, like, I don't know what, something's wrong because I'm throwing up, pooping, night sweats or cold sweats. Something's just off. Okay, so I knew something was off. So we go to the emergency room on I think it was July 12th. And a different emergency room from a hospital, and it takes hours for them to get me in, and I'm just feeling horrible. Well, anyways, come to find out, they did all these scans on me, and they've come to find out that I have a small bowel obstruction. Okay, so I have a small bowel obstruction, and also the week before when I went to see my primary, I was starting to experience postpartum depression, and so they had put me on some antidepressants to help me, because I was also went through trauma. So like, I now I'm seeing a therapist, and it wasn't just postpartum, it's also trauma. And I was already experiencing that before I went into the hospital for the second time. So, they find out that I have a small bowel obstruction, and they're like, you might need more surgery. Well, I've already had a C-section and a hysterectomy, and then a week later you want to come back in and do a small bowel obstruction. But they're like, hey, let's put this NG tube down your stomach, and for 2 days or something. I did 2 days, and see if it'll cure itself. So, praise the Lord, it cured itself. And I actually thought I was gonna die at some of these points. Like this part, I was like, wow, this is it. Like they're really trying to kill me. Like God, this must be my time, you know? So I made like the TikTok. When I made my TikTok, you know, when I made these things, these videos, I was telling people like, listen, live your life, do it, because I thought this was it for me, you know? Like I thought I was gonna die. I was so weak. I'd been through so much. Like I was like, this is the end, you know? Like got pretty dark during this time. So I remember being in the hospital for like about 4 days. With that, and then they were trying to send me home. I remember this because they were trying to send me home on like a Wednesday. Maybe it was only 2 days because it must have been, I went on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And they were trying to send me home on Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. I have to look specifically. But I remember them trying to send me home, and I knew something was wrong. Like, I don't know, you guys. Something was wrong. And I wanted another scan because they found that the small bowel obstruction, but they also found a seroma, which is like leftover fluid or something from the surgery that they didn't find before. So when they did the scan, we knew that we had to take care of the small bowel obstruction, but they're like, your body will take care of the seroma. Well, I was like, something's wrong. So I, basically asked my doctor, was like, listen, I think something's wrong. Can you please do another scan? And finally they agreed to the day that they were going to let me out. They did another scan. Well, the small bowel obstruction was gone. The seroma was still there, but it was smaller. So that was good. But guess what they found? They found an accidental finding of a blood clot in my right lung. And so then they were like, oh my gosh. So the doctor, she was amazing. My doctor was amazing here. She was amazing. She was Christian too. And she was so cool. And she was amazing. She was probably, I still remember her. And every time I think of her, I think how amazing she was. So, I remember her saying I remember her being so pissed, and she was so pissed because she's like, why didn't anybody put the leg compressors on you this whole time? You've been in the hospital for like 3 to 4 days. She had ordered the leg compressors, like, you know, they press your legs so the blood circulates, because I was basically bed bound. And she was pissed that none of the nurses put the things on there, and it was in the order. So I remember her walking out of the room and going and yelling at the nurses for not putting the things on, because now I had blood clots, which I didn't have a few days before entering the hospital because my primary had ordered that outpatient scan. So now they find this accidental finding of blood clot in my right leg, arm, lung. So now they have to go do another scan, and they find multiple blood clots in my right lung. So now I have to stay another day or so, and they have to put me on blood thinners. And so I'm breastfeeding this whole time, pumping this whole time, and they were like, you need to be on Coumadin. You're going to have to be on this for about 3 to 6 months, or 6 months is what they told me. And they had to start giving me these Lovenox shots till my blood levels got right, and I left. I remember leaving the hospital on a Friday, and it was Friday the 16th I believe it was Friday, July 16th. I finally leave the hospital. Now, you guys, I had my twins 1, 2, 3 weeks ago. So I feel like I missed so much of my twins during this time. Like, I basically, like, their first month of their life, I was basically in the hospital. Like, um, so I leave home, or they get my INR levels to 1.9 before I leave. I've also left the hospital on blood thinners. And I remember also the week before that, like when I had gotten out with the hysterectomy, I remember asking a friend if I could get a wheelchair. Like, so I got a wheelchair. I was borrowed a wheelchair because I was just so weak. I was so weak. I remember just being so weak. And I wheelchaired around my house for a couple weeks. And man, this gets crazy, you guys. Like, there's just so much. It just was so crazy. Like, God literally saved me. Like if it wasn't for that gut feeling of finding those blood clots, it was crazy. So now I come home on a Friday. Now I'm home for 2 days, okay? And it's a Sunday. And I left the hospital at a 1.9 EINR, and they want you to be between a 2 and a 3. And they said, you have 6 days of these shots, okay? So I had 6 days left of these Lovenox shots. I'm supposed to give myself a shot every 12 hours. I was so scared to give myself shots in the beginning. Like, it was just terrifying. I remember putting on worship music, and, like, it just was crazy. Now it's easy because I've been doing it for like a month, you know, like it's gotten better. It's still not fun at all, but I remember I got out on a Friday, and I remember them saying, you need to take it easy for about a week, or like, take it easy. Okay. So I get on a Friday, I'm home Saturday, and I'm still in the wheelchair, and I'm home Sunday. So Sunday, I remember sitting on the couch. This gets crazy. Okay. I remember sitting on the couch, and my arms started to get tingly. Like, my arms started to tingle, and I was like, what is that? That's so weird. Like, my arms tingling, then my hand started to get numb and tingly, and I'm moving my hand, like, thinking, like, what the heck is going on? And then I remember, like, my shoulder getting tingly, and then I remember, like, my tongue started to feel funny and tingly, and, like, in my neck, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And I think I was sharing this on social media, like, I'm having numbness, I'm having tingling. And all I remember, I just told people, I made a story about it because I shared this whole journey on Instagram and asked for prayers. And I'm telling my husband, and all of a sudden I just feel like I hear God say, like, just lay down. I just want you to lay down and don't move. He's like, lay down and don't move. So I didn't know what was going on. I just felt like I was supposed to lay down and don't move. So I laid down and I didn't move. And I remember laying down on the couch and not moving. And at this point, I remember it just got crazy. Like, I remember I got to literally go and lay with Jesus. Like, I remember I was laying on the couch, but I wasn't on the couch. I don't know. Like, I there was Jesus, and we were laying in green pastures. Like, I was literally lying in green pastures, and Jesus was right here. And like, I couldn't see his face. Okay. So it was just a shadow, but I knew it was Jesus. Okay. And, just his black shadow, and I got to lay next to him, and it was like the most joyful and the most peaceful, like it just like a calmness, like I can't even explain it. It was the most wonderful feeling, and I remember just feeling like, and knowing, like, Jesus isn't worried, like, Jesus isn't phased. Like, Jesus isn't worried. He was not that he wasn't phased, because he cares. It's just Jesus laid there in this green valley, and he wasn't worried. And so I laid there with him and just got to experience this. That's what it was. It was like perfect peace. It was just perfect peace. And it's just unexplainable. Like, I just, like, it was just perfect peace. And I remember, like, kind of like I remember laughing, like, I was like hysterically laughing, and like I was so joyful and laughing, and like, And I think my husband caught some of this on video, like, because he told me later on that he videoed some of this because he's freaking out, like, what is going on with you? And I was like, Jesus, like, Jesus is here. Like, I'm like, he's so peaceful. And I said, he makes me lie down in green pastures. And the verse, and let me see if I can pull up the verse because I'm getting these verses, like, and I didn't even know this was a verse, you guys. Like, I'm literally lying in green pastures with Jesus. Like, I'm telling you, like, because it was just weird. Hold on, let me see if I can go green pastures. Lying down in green pastures. Let me pull up the verse. Hold on. Lying down. See, I don't even know the verse. This was crazy, though. Just hold on, there's more down. Oh, here it is. This was so good. Oh my gosh, because this literally described what happened. It says, it's Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I remember laying there and you have no desires. Like you just have perfect peace. You have no wants. I shall not want. And it says, I shall not want. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still and quiet waters. He refreshes and restores my soul. And I remember telling my husband, I said, Jesus is refreshing and refreshing my soul. He refreshes my soul. And I remember saying that, to my husband, and he leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. For even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort and console me. And I remember, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anointed and refreshed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy and unfailing love shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell forever in the house and in the presence of the Lord. And so when I had told my husband, I said, I'm lying down in the pastures with Jesus. I'm like, he's refreshing my soul. And it was crazy because, like, my husband's freaking out at this point, like, I don't know. And like, I remember him pulling up like this verse and started reading. I said, yes, this is it. Like this is where I, like, Jesus, like, is here. I feel like, you guys, I literally got to spend time with him. I don't know the timing because it's way off. I do remember my friend Kiana FaceTiming me during this time. And, I don't really remember anything else, like, in the real world. I remember just lying with Jesus and being like, I'm with Jesus, like, this is amazing. And I also remember sometime at this point, I remember thinking, well, I'm like, well, I want to, my husband lost his mom. And I remember thinking, I said, like, I remember being like, Jesus, I want to bring a message back to my husband, like, and something from his mom. I would love to do that for my husband. Like, that's something I would love to do. So maybe that's when I knew, like, it wasn't time for me to leave. Like, I wanted to help my husband. I love my husband. I think he's the reason that kept me here, because I wanted to bring something to him. And I asked God, what can I bring back from, Tay's mom, and I know this might sound really harsh or whatever, but, like, I'm just going to tell you what I got. And so I remember being like, and it sounds really harsh when you say it, but it's like, you're like, they're not thinking about you. Okay, these people that have died, who have passed on, they're not thinking about you. They're not worried about you. They're like, because like, and how this is like, I like they don't care about you. And not saying that they didn't love you when they were on earth, but they're in so much perfect peace, like that they're so happy and so fulfilled. Like there's no wanting, so they're not thinking about you because they're perfectly happy. They're with God. They have this amazing, and like, it's just really, really hard to explain, but like, just like find comfort in that if they pass, that they're happy. Like, they're in blissful peace. They don't, like, so don't worry about them. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't worry about, like, I know it's hard for us, like, in our human mind, I feel like, but like, that feeling that they get to have for the rest of their life is like perfect peace. Like, they have no want. It's really hard to explain. So like, that's what I came back to tell my husband, and been like, your mom doesn't think about you. No, but like, I literally was like, she's just perfectly happy. So don't, like, and he was like, I don't know. So like, I came back being like, it's okay. like you don't like celebrate that, be happy for them, like they get to be with God forever and have that perfect peace. So that was Sunday afternoon, and I basically took it easy. I don't know when I came to at this point. When I came to, my friend Kiana was there, and nobody said anything to me. They were just like, "Here, you need to just take it easy, whatever." And so on Monday, I called my primary again, and I told her what I experienced, or like I didn't tell anybody really that I met Jesus except my husband and Kiana knew because I told them, and on Monday, I called primary and I was like, I'm experiencing this numbness, and they were like, go to the Florida urgent care, basically, because that's where my thing is. So I went to the urgent care. I got into the urgent care and I told them what was going on, and the nurse was like, looked at me wide eyed. She's like, why did you not go to the emergency room? And I was like, because that's what the doctor told me to do, is come here. And they were like, you guys need to leave and go right to the emergency room. And I'm thinking like, what the heck? And she's like, I'm not going to say what she said because she said she wasn't supposed to say it, so whatever. So we go to the emergency room and tell everybody that the emergency room was basically going on, and basically I had a mini stroke, whatever. So now they have to do all these scans. It's not really whatever. It's actually a really big deal, and I'm just trying to. I'm also a jokester because I joke and to hide my pain. So if I seem too happy during this, it's because I am still working through a lot of it, and I joke when I have pain. So it's not whatever. Basically, I had a mini stroke, and Monday they did all these scans. I'm telling you, I had scans everywhere. I had scans in my brain. I had so many MRI scans, so many things. Like, just they found something and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't really remember. So that's Monday, and then finally Tuesday, they released me from the hospital, and Tuesday night at 10 p.m. because I didn't want to be there, and I finally left the hospital. I'm like, I'm just done. Like, I'm done. I'm not going back to the hospital. So I went, a lot of stuff happened after even leaving the hospital. It was like, seriously, guys, I was like literally being attacked. Like, I swear I was being attacked. Like, so many times. Like, I remember after leaving the hospital, I ended up getting home healthcare nurse, and they were supposed to come twice a week to get my blood drawn. Well, the first time that my blood gets drawn on a Friday, I remember my blood got drawn, and then nobody felt like they were like, where's your blood on Monday? Because I got drawn on a Friday, and they were like, where's your blood on a Monday? And come to find out, the blood got canceled. So when I asked the doctor, they're like, well, we didn't cancel it. And then I had to talk to the nurse, and she's like, we didn't cancel it. And everyone, like, nobody had ever heard of somebody canceling blood. Like, who can't, like, this blood is supposed to help me keep my INR levels because I'm off the shots now because they didn't know that I didn't have any more. And they, like, who canceled my shots? Who canceled the blood? Like, this is weird things that happened to me that nobody can explain. Like, somehow my blood that was drawn got canceled after it was already at the lab, and it's never happened before. A lot of this has happened. So, like, who canceled these things? Like, this is, like, I'm just saying, like, we fight against spirit. Like, I don't know. I'm just, think what you want, but I'm just saying crazy things happened even after me. It's almost like it was like something really did not want me to get well. Okay, something really did not want me to get well because it's happened a ton. Like, a lot of things happened that was just unexplainable. So then they try to redraw my blood levels. They send this lady out there to do my blood level, this time by finger pricks. They're like, we need to get your blood ASAP because now I've been off, like, well, now the machine doesn't work. So they can't even get my blood levels at this machine. And that's weird, right? Like, the lady was like, I don't know what's going on. This is the weirdest thing. Now this machine's not working. So something did not want me to get my INR levels taken. Okay, well, come to find out, when they were like, you need to just go to the lab right now. We need those INR levels. So by the grace of God, we somehow got to the lab because got to the lab. They got my thing, and they were like, oh my gosh, your level is like a 1 point something, which is supposed to be between a 2-3, and I'm also on no Lovenox shot. So I'm basically a blood clot can move again. Like, I'm not protected this whole time. And they were like, don't you have any shots? I'm like, no. And so there's a lot of things got messed up in my care, like, whatever. So I finally get the shots back, and I had to fight to get those shots too, because like the pharmacy was closing and I had a minute. Like there was a lot of things that God like was, it's almost like it felt like a battle. Like if I could be honest, like it felt like there was like something like trying, and then by miracles, it just like when I hear that song Miracles After Miracles from Maverick City Music, it was literally like miracles after miracles after miracles. Like I'm telling you, like I needed to be on that shot. One time I remember on a Friday, like it was a Friday, and the pharmacies closed over the weekend. I remember getting on, like I was supposed to be on the shots to like keep blood clots from moving, and I didn't have any, and the pharmacy couldn't get it filled. Like everything became down to the last minute. It was like something was coming against everything that was making me healthy, and then by the grace of God, like in a minute, like I'm telling you, one time I remember getting a transfer of a thing, and by 1 minute I got it, and I was able to get that shot over the weekend. And just crazy little things, like you would just be absolutely shocked at the things that were like happening. It just felt, oh, I just don't know how to explain it. It was like something didn't want me to get well, okay? And so during this time, I also like am very close to God, because I remember just trying to go back to that space of being with Jesus and being like, Jesus isn't worried. That's all I kept thinking. That's what brought me comfort during this time, was like, Jesus isn't worried. And I was like, okay, Jesus isn't worried. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm trying to think of, there's a lot more to the story, but this was all just in the month of July. So then you go into, now God was like, all right, Carrie, like I remember just being like, I need to take a break from social media. And I didn't know how long it was supposed to be, because I felt like every time I got on social media, it was almost like social media has energy, and it was just not the energy that I needed to heal. I needed to just completely take a break from social media, and I've never taken a break from social media, because that's what we do. We work in social media. So for me to take a 40-day break was kind of unheard of. And yeah, so I remember making the video, and I wanted to share my testimony. I wanted to share Jesus, being with Jesus. And I remember thinking, like, you guys, if you just knew, if you could just experience, if you could. And I remember people inboxing me, telling me that they've also been with Jesus, and like their after death experience, that's what they ended up calling it later on. I didn't know at the time that I was having a mini stroke, because nobody told me when you're having a mini stroke, you're not supposed to tell people that are having a mini stroke, because then they freak out. So I remember people inboxing me. This was before I even got off social media, and telling me that they had an after death experience, and it's sounding similar to what I experienced, but not the same, but similar feelings, like just this overwhelming peace and joy. It's just like, still, it's absolutely incredible. I remember thinking, like, man, if all these people got together and they told their stories, like, how could you not believe? Like, so many people, if we could get so many people who've had these experiences come together and share their stories, and you're going to notice that they all have the same things, but they don't know each other, and they don't know the stories. Like, if you would believe in Jesus because of that, you know? And so I remember being so excited about that, because I was like, if people just knew, like, how could you not believe? So I think that's it for right now. I have a lot more to share about what happened to me, like, after, but I'm also very hungry and I need to go eat lunch. So, and it's already almost an hour. So I'm just going to upload this, and then I'll share with you my healing journey, because that was the hospital journey. And then I had to start on the road to healing. So